Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome to Lab 4 for HiFi 333 motor control. What we've got here is our data. I've got subject 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I've got the first 15 trials or the first 15 tosses in the pre-exposure, and then I have the 30 tosses for the post-exposure, and then the other 15 tosses or I'm sorry, for the exposure, and then 15 tosses for this post exposure here. Okay, so the first trick I'm going to show you today is getting our data um, into a column form. Okay, because that I like columns; they're a little easier to work with. But this is how the data were recorded. We're with these rows. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to right click and then, so remember how last week we used a formula, right? This week, we're going to transpose it, all right? And that looks just like this. We're going to transpose, and then we're going to get all of these out of the way, and going to go ahead and right-click on the row and delete, okay? We can get rid of this row, delete that. And so, what we're going to do next is we just have this one graph to make, but there's one thing or a couple of things that we need to do. One major thing before we move and actually graph this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on column B and I'm going to hit insert, okay? And then I'm going to put equals and then A2, okay? And so what I'm going to do is when I come to A2 here, when I come to A2, I'm going to put dollar signs on A and in front of 2, okay? And so what this does is it locks it to that cell. So now if I pull down, it's always going to be A2. All right, cool. So now what we're going to do uh, is take this and we're going to go equals B2 plus 1. All right. So and then we're going to click all the way down. Oh, you can see why it stopped there. It stopped because we have this extra row here. So we're going to delete that row. And now we're going to delete this row. Okay. It might not make a ton of sense why I'm doing this right now, but I'll show you in just a minute. So if I were to select this data here, and then come back up and select all of these data at the same time here, watch what happens. Our scatter plot looks like this. So we can't really tell what's actually going on, and it gives us no real idea of of how time and different trials are affecting the 3 different conditions that each subject underwent. So we have what probably our exposure trial here, we have our pre-exposure trial here, and then we have our post-exposure trial there. But that really doesn't tell us anything about what's going on. So this plot is actually rather worthless to us. And that's because all of the numbers here, we go 1 to 15, we go 1 to 30, and then 1 to 15 again. So if we move, whoops, see, that's closer. I have to select all of these again. All right, so what we need to do is bring that down, okay? And then what we'll do is we can select each of these, move that over, select it, move that over, and we'll do it 2 more times. Select, move that column over, and then select and move that column over. Okay, cool. So that's the way to do it. And this data looks really clean. Why? Yeah, it's because I did it. So it looks perfect, obviously. The other way that we can do this is if we delete that there. Oh no, there it goes. We can go like this, and we'll select all of these. Then we can insert a scatter plot. Okay. And now Excel knows that this here is our legend. And so we can change this. So we can call this subject 1. And then if I could spell, that'd be great. As you have seen in previous videos and will continue to see in other videos, my incredible skill at spelling or mastery of the English language. Just impeccable. Okay, cool. So you see what I did there? I just copied and pasted subject in, and now I'm going to move that up out of the way there. And so we can go here, that, and we'll delete those just the same as we've done in the past. It's a right click delete. Make sure we got the little blue indicators, right click delete. And so I know sometimes it seems like I just keep going over the same things over and over again. One part of it is I do keep going over the same things over and over again because sometimes people didn't watch the first video or the first set of videos, so I'm trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and that means going a little slower every once in a while. You'll see that in video 5 and 6, but I won't give that explanation again. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to insert a shape. All right, and that's going to be a straight line here. And what I'm going to do is this shape's going to come down right at about 15, and I want it to be the length of this axis here. So I'll go and I'll check. Almost. There we go. Okay. So there's my first line there. If I right click on it and I can format the object, okay? So now on this format object, I can change the width. Yeah, we'll make it 2 points and then we'll color it black. Okay. So now it really pops off that background and it's very definitive where this spot is. So now let's mess with this just a little bit and make sure that it stays. So if you change your graph size or your chart size, you're going to have to re-manipulate your lines. Okay, so now I've got my line there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste that line. So that's just a Control C, Control V, or however you do it on Macs. But said it once, I'll say it a million times. Macs make really good frisbees for dogs. They're also really expensive frisbees, but frisbees nonetheless. Okay, so we've got our other line there, and it looks nice. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to insert a text box. Okay, text box is right here. And so I'm going to call this pre-exposure. All right, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to increase the size of that font just a little bit, make it a little easier to see. Okay, and I'm going to pop this right up here on top. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the pre-exposure, move it over here, whoops, and move my graph accidentally, and I'm going to delete all of that, call that the exposure. All right, I'm going to copy and paste it one more time, and I'm going to move it over here, and now I'm going to call that post exposure. All right, so you can figure out maybe a better spot for the legend. Whoops. Call that post, click on my legend, and since that's getting a little cluttered up top, we'll move it down here. All right, so let's say that I'm being very particular about this, and I want to make sure that these are all on the same line. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste that line again, but this time I'm going to bring it up here to the top, okay? And now I can set that there, and I can click on my text box and move that text box to be right on the line. Okay, so you know all those figures and articles that you see? This is one of the tricks that we use to make sure everything's lined up if we're not working in PowerPoint. We'll put lines elsewhere where we want everything to be lined up on. We're going to assume that line was perpendicular to our y-axis, and that's how we get it. Okay, so if you want really nice, professional looking, well placed text boxes, that's one way to ensure that that's going to happen. Okay, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert this, okay, make that bigger, move these over. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm in here and I'm going to insert chart design, and I'm going to add a quick chart element. I'm going to add a horizontal axis title, and I'm going to add a vertical axis title. Okay, oh, that messed everything up, but that's okay. Just keep moving everything over as we need to. We can always expand it this way as well. Okay, just requires us to keep moving things around. And you can make sure that that's centered if you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my axis title, which is distance from the midline. Whoops, not there. Here, distance from the midline, and our units are centimeters. Okay, and then on our bottom axis title here we have trial number. Okay, or trial number. All right, and then we've got subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, and subject 4. We'll move this one last time. There and there. It looks good. And if we wanted to, we could increase the font size of these guys just a little bit, as I've done in previous videos, and we'll continue to do in others, where we increase the font size so that everything really pops off of our chart and it looks good. Okay, cool. So one little thing. So this comes important, like if you want to normalize your data to a subject's body weight or a certain distance, or like the maximum distance traveled, you can use this lock or this type of locking for all sorts of different calculations. It's very handy when you want to ensure that you're just using information from a single cell. Okay, whoops, I've gone almost 12 minutes. I'm sorry, this was supposed to be a relatively quick video, but hey, I hope you all have a great day, and we will catch you next time.